Well, hello everyone, and lovers of poetry all over the world. My name's Patricia D'Alessandro, and I am the host of a poetry series for Barnes & Noble in Palm Desert called Valley Voices of the Muse. Once a month, I bring poets together so that they can have an opportunity to share the work that they've been working through during the month and the years, so that the public can be aware of the importance of poetry in our lives. As it's been said, poetry is certainly the heart of a civilization, whereby it connects us. And after all, we are brothers and sisters. And when we're connected through poetry, we really come to the realization of how important that is. I have had the good fortune to discover my latent abilities in poetry when I went back to college after the age of 50. Community colleges in California. The first one was Cañada College. The next one was San Mateo Junior College. And I moved on into San Francisco State University, where I was really coached by major poets of America. And through the good fortune of a colleague sitting next to me in the class, who said to me one day, "Patricia, I think you're wasting your time writing poetry. I think you really ought to go on a visit to Spain, because if you did that, I think your imagination would sprout." I said, "Well, it's on my agenda." And he said, "Well, fine, because I have a house in Spain, and if you'd like to rent it for a time, I'd be happy to rent it to you." And I said, "How much?" He said, $250 a month. "Wow." I said, "I'll talk to you in the morning." So I went home, called an elder sister who lived in New York, and said to her, "Angie, I've had an opportunity to live in Spain." And she said, "Go for it, kid. You only live once." So I took her advice. I sold everything I owned in my household, and I took off for Spain. And I was there for 7 months. And I experienced a joy I've never known anywhere else in the world, meeting people, learning to speak Spanish, and photographing. And I didn't realize I could be called a photographer until I had the man who developed my photos say to me, "Oh, Patricia, I love doing your film. You have such a wonderful eye." And of course, what was I photographing? Oh, different little graffiti across a wall, or elders sitting in a park, or things that ordinary people might not notice. And those pictures came home with me. I blew them up. They've been on exhibit. And going to Europe was like taking the top of my skull off and saying, "Bye-bye, birdie. I don't want you anymore. I want my mind open to everything." So my imagination had fences around it originally, but not after I made this trip to Europe. I subsequently made more trips to Europe. And at this time, I celebrated my 88th birthday in April. And I'm so happy to be alive, despite a little asthma I have to contend with. But I hope to live to be 100, because my work isn't finished. And I could have been killed in 1974 when I was driving some Stanford students in my open convertible with the top down. And we were in Yosemite going down Old Priest Grade, and my brakes failed. And the car went over the ravine. We hit a boulder at the bottom of the ravine, and fortunately nobody was hurt, not a bit. We climbed up the ravine as though we were trekkers. From that day forward, I had another life. So I've lived 2 lives. And strangely, a woman who read my poem once before this accident said to me, "I see 2 lifelines in your hand." And I said, "Oh, good. I've had my 2 lives." Now, the work on the collaging here, of course, I love doing collages, mainly because you are really free to let it be. And I love this one that says "World of Difference." And because I'm involved with a new group that I met over the past year that I'm crazy about, 100,000 Poets for Change, which I'm hoping to do some good work with over the year. And it's just something, when I see a magazine, I don't look for things to read. I look for things to pull out of the magazine that I can use in collages. And I do it randomly. I do it with no real idea in my head when I start. And this is what you get. And I'm very happy about this. This is my garage door, which was just plain white when I came into the house. And this was the first thing I did. And this garage will eventually become my bona fide studio, which, as you can see, I do have some paintings hanging on the walls. And again, I came to my creativity, which I knew I had when I was a child, but nobody believed me. And as a consequence, it didn't evolve until I was in my 50s. And so I've exhibited in San Francisco, in Sacramento, in New York, and Paris at festivals, and Berlin at festivals. And if the Lord blesses me with more life, I want to live to be 100 so I can continue sharing my work with anybody who wants to share it with me. I taught at Wellspring Women's Center for 6 years, where the women were from really shattered lives, and some were even prostitutes, and women coming out of alcoholism. And they did such great work in my workshop that I did 2 anthologies of their work, which turned a lot of them around, where they felt life was worth living and they wanted to go forward from that. And from those 2 little anthologies, which I treasure, I applaud them, because it took great courage to lift themselves out of that sordid life that they were living. So in the meantime, I've been in touch with several, and they're working hard and finding life worth living. Oh, anyway, this is my work that you're viewing here, which is kind of uninstructed. I haven't had too many art lessons, but I've had artists around me all the time, and I've been with creative friends all of my life, which has enriched my life so completely that I've just been the happiest soul over the last 50 years, and hope to live, as I say, to 100 or even more, but only if I'm in good health. So I want to say thank you very much for allowing me to share some time with you. And I do teach creative writing workshops. I live in Desert Hot Springs, California, and I hope to have a workshop, and I will continue doing my series at the wonderful Savage Art Gallery in the new year, which will give a new focus on the importance of poetry and the arts connecting, so that we can have wine and cheese after the poets have read, and we can have sociability. And I think Barnes & Noble's is a wonderful store, and I thank them for having me for 8 years. But I do believe it's time to move on into the creative world of the artists, where everyone can come and enjoy what's being exhibited and read of an evening once a month or so. So thank you very much for listening, and God bless you all, and may the angels walk with you wherever you go.